Hello and welcome to another episode of Talking About Rock, sponsored by School of Rock, North Buffalo. I'm Rob Edwards. Today's guest paid tribute to the hottest band in the world, Kiss, recreating not only the music, but the show for Kiss as well. From Mr. Speed, please welcome Rich, Mike, and Mark. How's it going, guys?
Hey, Rob, how's it going?
Oh, it's going excellent. It's a little hot back here. You guys look like you're a little maybe cooler over there, but we definitely keep it rocking.
There with all that fire.
Right. So, Rich, I guess we could start with you. So, not only do you guys recreate the music at Kiss, but you also created an amazing stage show as well. Tell us a little bit about what it took to put that together.
Oh man, it's been such a labor of love over the past 2 years. You know, Quentin and a buddy of his up in Wisconsin built the whole thing. We hadn't seen it until we did our video for "I Was Made for Loving You," which was shot here outside of Cleveland. And you know, since we put that thing together, I know that Mike and Mark can attest of how much work it actually takes. Sure, the photos and everything look really great, but it's a lot of hard work. And what I love about my bandmates and Quentin is when everybody shows up at the shows, no matter where we are, we figure out, what we can set up, what we can put into the venue. If it's half of our setup, everybody knows the task at hand. If it's the full setup, everybody knows the task at hand. It's a really long day for us, but we wouldn't have it any other way. At least I wouldn't. It's an exceptionally long day for us compared to probably a lot of the other Kiss bands that are out there. But we're not trying to do what anybody else is doing. We're trying to do what Mr. Speed wants to do. And actually, looking into 2023, we're going to be doing it a lot smarter and a lot more efficiently. And that's something that maybe we can touch on later. But the entire set was built by Quentin, our drummer, and a friend of his. And then it takes the few of us, our little army, to make it work everywhere that we have a show.
The Mr. Speed Army needs to help out. Gotcha. Yeah, well, I think it's outstanding. When you guys played here last, when I caught you back a couple months ago, you know, it's a great show. I really loved it. So I wanted to kind of go around the horn here a little bit, and I guess we'll just start with you again, Rich. What was your fascination for Kiss? What began with you first thing?
You know, I met a kid that lived on my street. He was from the Philippines, and he was adopted, but his family moved onto our block, and we became friends. And early on in that friendship, I found out that he was into music, and I was just getting into music at the time. I think I was very much into Peter Frampton at that point. As our friendship grew, we started hanging out at each other's houses. And this was right around 76, 77, I think. And I had seen Kiss on the Paul Lynde Halloween special, and it really kind of, got my attention. Then one Saturday, I remember it just like yesterday, I was watching television and there was a commercial for the Kiss radio. And when I saw the explosion on my television and I heard this song, I was like, okay, now I've seen them on TV twice. What the hell is this and who are they?
Right.
But then after getting to know my friend Chris, I went over to his house one day and we go into his room and there's the US Tour 76 poster on his closet wall. And I'm like,
classic.
Okay.
Yep.
I'm like, all right, now I've seen him on Paul Lynde. I've seen a commercial for the radio. And now this new friend of mine has a poster. So it was like, I needed to know anything and everything about this band. And it was like every penny that I made, every penny that I stole, I went and bought something, just whatever it was, magazines, records, 8-tracks, posters. I'm proud to say that I lived through that whole first generation of 8-tracks and the vinyl and the cassettes, the whole thing. And now here it is coming around again. So for me, it was Paul Lynde, the Kiss radio commercial, and then becoming friends with who is still my longest and one of my closest friends, Chris.
Yeah, that's funny you bring that up. I've heard a couple of people talk about the Paul Lynde holiday special, and it was kind of hokey back in the day, but I really think it resonated with a lot of people, and people really remember it. for some reason.
Sure.
You know, I was watching the Gene Simmons Family Jewels episodes again just for the heck of it, and I know one of their super fans mentioned that too. They're like, "Oh yeah, when I saw you guys on that, you know, I was hooked for sure."
Yeah.
So let's go next here. So Mike, how about you? What began your fascination, or what you started following Kiss?
Kind of like Rich. I mean, I grew up in the 70s. My older brother, he had all the Kiss albums, and I remember really becoming aware around the Love Gun era, and you know, it just kind of spiraled from there. I mean, I remember watching Kiss Meets the Phantom on the you know, when it came on, and that was just fascinating. I was always a sci-fi guy, you know, and Star Wars and all that stuff. So I just thought it was just this fantastic thing. Actually, interestingly enough, Ace was the one that really caught my attention first. And I remember having the puzzles, and you know, I mean, everything was Kiss back then. I
They
mean,
were, yeah, they had the merchandise machine running really, really early, right? And they look like comic book superheroes to us kids back in the day, right? They were everywhere, and they had everything going on for sure. And they had their own comic book.
exactly. You remember the 12-inch dolls? Kiss. That's
Yeah.
the name. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
it was.
And those are difficult to find now. They're asking a lot of money for that stuff nowadays, you know.
Exactly. I mean, and I still have the torso to my jeans somewhere, but I played with it.
Awesome. Awesome.
Uh,
So
the
crazy.
case,
So
you
what
know,
about
like,
what about you, Mark? What would you say began your fascination with following Kiss?
Probably when I was about 8 years old, and it started because my brother is a slob, and we had separate rooms, and my brother's 7 years older than I was, and he had all albums, and he never put the albums back in the sleeves. He just
Oh, that
laid
would
them out
drive me
everywhere.
crazy.
So yeah,
That would
and
drive me
he had
nuts.
Foghat, Zeppelin, you know, Sabbath, everything like that. So when he was gone, I'd sneak in his room and I would listen to albums, and I didn't like any of them. And then I picked up one that was called Destroyer, and I played it, and I loved the music. It was short songs. They were accessible. They were catchy. They were melodic. They were empowering. They didn't go on forever. So and then I found Alive 2, which had some of the same songs on Destroyer, but to me, it sounded like there was a million people, and the guitars sounded like my dad's bandsaw. It just sounded huge and big, and you know,
Yeah.
I just kept listening to it over and over and over. Then my brother caught me and goes, "You know who they are?" And I went, "No." And he showed me the back of Alive 2, which Gene scared the hell out of me on that picture. But I go, "Oh, this is circus music." Okay, he goes, no, they do.
that,
And I
that,
go,
that,
but they're dressed up like clowns. What? And I didn't get it. It took me, but I just
Yeah.
loved the music. And then the fascination began, which I had to find all the back albums, which you just couldn't go in a record store and get the album. So I had a special order from Japan, and you know, every 6 months I'd get an album or something like that.
And you were all in at that point for sure.
I was, yeah, everything. And then I even got into them in the 80s, and I loved them
Yeah.
through the and everything like that.
And it's so funny. Little did we know that Destroyer album was the make it or break it for Casablanca Records, right? When that came out, that had to hit hard and had to hit big in order for them to keep going. They were running out of cash, right?
Yep.
You know,
and that's what did it for me. Yeah, just it was always the music. Everybody talks about the image and I didn't see what their concert looked like. I didn't see anything from them for years.
Yeah, Bill Aucoin was putting the tour on his credit card to keep those guys going.
Oh yeah, yeah. But that's what did it for me. Just it was the music, and even today, it's the music. Person, I love it.
Definitely, it's definitely such outstanding music that still stands the test of time today. You put on any of those old Kiss songs, and everybody knows who that is, whether they like it or not. They definitely remember.
Yeah.
So speaking of music, so I wanted to ask you, Rich. There's so many classic Kiss songs. How do you put together a set list? It's got to be so difficult.
oh, geez.
Well, I mean, it is not really as tough as you think, simply because what we're trying to do right now with this version of our band is we're trying to stay true to a certain era. So the 79, 80 era, you can go on Google and you can look and find out what they actually played, when they went to Australia.
Right. So you're trying to keep it true to that time period.
Yeah, and we throw in a little, we throw in some other flavorings too. Like we recently did Heavens on Fire in Chicago at our last show. Which
Nice.
obviously they weren't playing in 1980 in Australia, but that's the great thing about this band. The guys that make up Mr. Speed right now have the ability to just on a dime pivot and and try a song that might be a little bit out of the box or not as fan friendly. Some of the fans, we got a little pushback from the fans when we stopped doing the 80s material that we were throwing in a year or two ago. But I think for the most part, people really resonate with the classic songs.
Yeah, that's when you get your biggest audience, biggest demographic, right?
Yeah, and you have to pay attention to the type of event that we're playing too. If you're doing a Kiss Expo, it's cool to play Jungle or Great Expectations. But if you're doing the local fair or community event or something like that, you're going to have a good cross section of fanatics and just music people. So you have to be able to appeal to everybody. And that's the strength of Mr. Speed. One of the biggest compliments we can get, or I can get as a member of this band, is when somebody comes to see our band who doesn't know anything about Kiss. Maybe they showed up at the show with a friend and they come up to us afterwards and they said, you know what? I just had the best time watching you guys. You were so entertaining. And that's what I love about what we do as a band together, because a band is a team and we know how to bring it together and make people feel good.
Yep, you guys definitely do that on your shows. I've seen it's been great seeing that. So the one big thing we know about Kiss is the makeup. It's such a hard, difficult thing to do. So I was going to ask you, Mark, what did it feel like the first time you were putting on the makeup and doing this?
Well, I tried it at my house first, and like everybody else, you don't know what kind to get. You don't know really how to apply it. So I tried it at my house and didn't turn out too bad, didn't turn out too good, but I just felt like I had the most difficult. I had 14 points. I got, at that point, 3 different colors and things like that. But I had a friend of mine who was in a Kiss tribute band for a long time. He was in Kiss Army, and we got to know each other through social media and stuff like that. And he would give me tips like, oh, you want to use this, you want to use this type of brush and blah, blah, blah.
Right.
And how you put it on, take it off. And I really learned a lot from him on how to do that. But then over the years, each of us kind of has our own little routine, how we're going to do it. And, they'll say I take the longest. I still do. I've been doing this since 2007 and I still take 3 hours to do it.
Yeah. When I last spoke with you guys, I put on makeup, and Rich, I actually watched your videos of you doing it a couple times. I'm like, he's been doing this for quite a while. Maybe I need some pointers on how to do this. Last time I had makeup and stuff and tried to do it, but it definitely didn't turn out as crystal and as nice as what you guys do. It always looks really, really good.
Well, we appreciate that. We take a lot of pride. I think everybody, I know Mike, Mark, and Q, and myself, as Mark alluded to, we all have different rhythms to how we do our makeup, different techniques that we use. And each one works for each one of us because we're 4 different dudes. And, Mark does take a long time. If I would give Mark 5 hours, he would take every second of that 5 hours to do it.
But
so
it looks great when he's done after that 5 hours.
I got to throw the line out there and reel him back in because he'll take every second. But that's the funny thing about Mark. And that's what makes him so unique within the structure of this band. Mike's the same way. I sat in a room with Mike in Rock Island, Illinois, a few weeks back, and man, was he pissed off because his makeup didn't turn out very well. But see, that's the thing that I love about my bandmates, is because they know there's a level of expectation within Mr. Speed that they want to uphold, and it's important to them.
Right. You need to have everybody be on the same page for sure. Definitely.
Yeah, because it's not about, like I said earlier, it's a team, and it's not about one guy looking really good and the other 3 guys look like 10 miles bad road.
Right. You see a lot of Kiss bands like that. There's one person that really, really goes the extra mile, and maybe the other guys don't. Yep.
Right. Yep. I see it every week, and because I'm very in tune with what's going on YouTube, I do a lot of research. and I see what we're up against. So I pay attention to that. So, you know, ask Mike how he does his because when Mike came into the band, he had to do a whole new process with his wig and everything from what he was doing. So let's hear from him a little.
All right, so let's hear from Mike. So how was it the first time you had to don the makeup and for Mr. Speed?
For Mr. Speed, I've been doing it previously for like 15 years, and it was interesting because Gene did his makeup different in the Dynasty era versus the era that I was doing it previously. So I kind of had to, and you know, a lot of people wouldn't notice that, but like Rich alluded to earlier, people expect a lot of Mr. Speed. You know, I mean, I expected a lot of them when I came into the band. You know, I mean, and they didn't disappoint. Their attention to detail was great, and I wanted to be performing on all cylinders, you know, as much as possible, because I mean they've established an air of they do it right, you know, and they care about what product they're presenting. So anyway, yeah, you know, Rich was talking about the wig, and they had a different wig that I had to get acquainted with, and they actually at the time had a professional person who glued the wigs on our heads and all that. So I was always used to doing it myself, you know. So it was pretty cool. It was.
Did you ever think that wig wasn't going to come off? Did you ever go through your head?
I pray God every show that wig does.
I've talked to some people and theirs wouldn't come off, and they were quite upset. So I just had to ask that.
Problem of it not. I mean, I'll stick it down pretty good, but boy, where Gene has his full head, his forehead completely exposed, that wig's barely hanging on. You better make sure it's on good. And as much as I move around and thrash my head, I pray to God every show, please don't let them come off.
Right, exactly. I get you. Awesome. So, Rich, you're not only the leader of this tribute band, you're also quite the Kiss collector. Do you have any cool collectible stuff you could maybe share with the audience?
You know, I'm looking around here. Actually, I will grab one thing here real quick. This is my latest acquisition. This won't take too much to grab.
Okay.
So I guess around the solo album area, maybe even 1980 when Kiss was doing their tour down there, they put out these two sets of mirrors, and they were the solo album faces, and one set had their name printed on, and one set had their signature printed on. So a couple of years ago, I found a Paul Stanley one that I think I got for less than $100 on eBay.
Okay.
And while I was away a few weeks ago, I happened to see a guy who was selling some of his collection, and this is one of the latest things that I've got. And you can see that.
Nice. Yes.
So I picked up the Gene one. So just for those of you who really give a shit, this was $250.
Wow. Yeah, we had a special collectors episode, and the Kiss collector on there has definitely been through lots of cash with his collection as well.
Yeah, for me, it's not, you know, it's not like I don't have the money, and it's not like I'm rolling in cash. What makes me happy about collecting, whether it's Kiss stuff or one of my other favorite bands, is the joy that it brings me, because a lot of these things that I get nowadays, I've never owned. When I was growing up, you know, I was a member of a lower middle class family. My parents didn't, there were 6 kids. There wasn't a lot of money floating around. So, you know, for me, I would take every cent that I could and go to a record store and buy an issue of Kerrang or an issue of Circus and an 8-track. And that was how I built up my collection. And as I got older and started working more, then, you know, the money was a little bit more prominent, and I was able to get a lot more things. So in my music layer here, I have a lot of really, really cool stuff. I'm a pretty lucky kid. But that's the latest Kiss piece that I got, and that came all the way from Australia. So I was happy that it showed up in one piece, because it is a mirror and it wasn't.
Yeah, definitely lucky for that. Yeah, you made a good point. I was the same way. I was buying the albums, really didn't have much money for the merch at the time. But the albums were definitely what started it all. And I wanted to go around real quick, and we'll do a little Kiss debate here. So the first set we got, the two classic Kiss albums. We'll go and see who votes for what. So we'll start with Mike. Destroyer or Love Gun for Mike? What do you think?
Ugh. I know I actually said Love Gun earlier, but I'm going to go with Destroyer.
Destroyer for Mike. Okay, what about you, Mark? Destroyer or Love Gun?
I know Destroyer influenced me right off the bat, but I gotta say Love Gun. Because first time Ace sang, did a song, it was a little heavier. They kind of went back to the Meat Potatoes Rock. I Stole Your Love is one of my favorites.
Yep, love that song. Yep.
Ever. Even songs like Hooligan, everything. Every song was just classic Kiss to me. So I gotta say Love Gun.
Love Gun. Okay, what about you, Rich? So
Destroyer.
Destroyer or Love Gun?
Oh my God, hands down.
What is that? We didn't hear you. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, hands down, Destroyer.
Destroyer,
has,
right?
always will be. Yeah, it's one of my top 5 favorite albums.
Gotta be right. So let's go a little bit differently for this. So the two most underrated albums that I feel, Unmasked or The Elder. What do you think was the better deal, Rich? Unmasked or The Elder?
I'm an Unmasked guy. I love that album.
All right. What about you, Mark? Unmasked or The Elder? What do you think was a better product for Kiss there? They both were kind of shaky a little bit.
I mean, I love them both, but I would have to say Unmasked. Unmasked was poppy, but I like pop rock kind of stuff. Elder, I kind of was like, what, what's going on here? But I got used to it. Whereas Unmasked hooked me from the beginning. I loved all the
Elder, when they put that product out, I was really sure what they were trying to do with that. They had a whole concept tied together with it, and I guess it just really didn't pan out. But they gave it a shot, so whatever.
Yeah.
So, Mike, what about you? Unmasked or The Elder? What do you think?
I wish I could shake it up, but yeah, I concur. Unmasked. Have to agree.
Right. Exactly. All right, Rich, I got one last question for you because I follow you on social media, and I just have to ask, how could you part with your Kiss pinball machine?
Well, yeah,
because every Kiss fan wants one, right? I want one.
I'm getting more sucker punched over that thing than thought I was going to get. But here's the stark reality to that. I bought that thing in 1992, and I paid $600 for it.
That's a great deal.
Yeah, it was a smoking deal. You'll never touch one for that money anymore.
Never.
What I sold it for, my return on investment, was a little bit more than $600.
I'm sure it was.
And so now it's sat in storage for the past 20 years. I didn't feel right letting it just sit in storage. It needs a little bit of TLC. And a friend reached out to me recently and said, "Are you thinking about selling your pinball machine?" And I really wasn't. But as soon as he asked me the question, I thought to myself, well, we recently moved from our apartment. We had lived in an apartment for 23 years, and now we're in a home. And even being in this home, I didn't really have a place to put the machine. So I felt like it wasn't being loved the way that it should be. And when this friend reached out and says, "I know somebody who's interested. This is what they want to offer you," I said, "Come and pick it up."
Nice. You think you may own another one in the future?
I don't think so. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to target something that maybe I've always wanted. The money's going to go into a little, safe place and just sit there for a while. And if something, maybe a guitar. I've sold off so many of my guitars. I have very few of them left. Basically, the ones I just used in the band, and some extra ones here in the house. But I got rid of all my Paul Stanley guitars, except the ones that I play live. And maybe I'll find something that is just an all-around great guitar to use here at home. But that's why I did it. I wanted to pay it forward to another fan who was going to get.
You wanted somebody that was going to utilize it more than you. It was kind of just, like you said, it was in storage. It really wasn't getting the love that it should be getting.
Yeah.
And so now it's off to a fan who can appreciate, maybe upgrade it a little bit or put it back in working condition and everything. I just know those are always the sought off thing all the Kiss collectors were looking for.
let me relate a story to you. You know, Mark's a big Star Wars fan. Mike's a big Star Wars fan. So Mark told me a story a couple of years ago how he had some misfortune and some of his original figures uh, found their way into the trash.
Oh
So,
gosh, which are a
Oh,
lot of money nowadays.
so you know what? That resonated with me, and because Mark is my friend and my bandmate, I went out and got him one of the figures because I felt like it was something that was going to bring my friend joy, and I wanted to share that with him. And so I got him a Luke Skywalker figure, and you know, just it's little things like that in amongst us here in Mr. Speed that you know makes us really, really good friends, really good bandmates. See, with Mike, all you have to do is get him a bag of Sour Patch Kids, and you're in.
And he's a happy guy.
That's all it takes with Mike. Just tap into that sweet tooth.
Well, you guys definitely are definitely a tight unit. You know, as friends, you're definitely a tight unit on stage. You bring it every time I see the show. It's always great. I love seeing you come to town. Where are you guys headed next?
I'm going to let one of my bandmates tell them.
Okay.
Maryland. We're going
I'm
to
sorry, you got to say that again. Go ahead, Mike.
Berlin, Maryland.
That'll be the next Mr. Speed show coming up there.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay,
they're not the
and-
biggest. They're not the biggest billboards for Mr. Speed. We're playing October 14th at Downs Casino.
Yeah,
Sorry.
we need to know the venue and all that stuff.
Oh yeah. And maybe Mike can tell fans where they can find all of our tour dates. Let's try them out on this one.
Okay. Mike, where can we find the tour dates for Mr. Speed?
Well, I'm glad you asked, Rob, because you can visit MrSpeed.com and find all the tour date information that you would be looking for.
Excellent, excellent. Folks, check them out. This is a great tribute band. I've seen them twice. You won't be disappointed. One last question for you, Rich, and I'll let you go. We know Kiss is on the End of the Road tour, and they've been talking about what's happening in the future. What are they going to do? If Kiss ever decides to do, say, like the Blue Man franchise type of thing, are you guys in for that job?
I would take Mark and Mike with me and stack us up against anybody else if they offered us for that position. It would be something very humbling, and I think speaking on behalf of my bandmates, I think we would all be honored to be given an opportunity to be a part of something like that. Sure, you know, I'm getting up there in age. You know, I not that I'm old by any stretch of the imagination, but I've got some gas left in the tank, and I want to spend it with these guys. You know, I want to play with these guys. These guys make me happy when we're on stage together, and we know how to do it. And I think when we play, it sounds the way it's supposed to sound. It looks the way it's supposed to look, and there's a really good feeling of solidarity and success after each and every show, Robert. So we appreciate as a band the opportunity that you've given us here tonight to talk a little bit about who we are and what makes us tick in our brand. So I want to let the other guys say something, you know, let them close in their own words as to what
Sure,
maybe Mr.
sure. Go ahead, Mark. What do you have to follow up with?
Well, I'm just, like I said, happy to be in this band. If I was asked to go on with Kiss 2.0 or something like that, I wouldn't want to do it with anybody other than the guys in the band right now.
Right, because they kind of batting around different ideas. They might try something like this out. We don't know.
Yeah, but you never know how, you know, people get along. You just can't put four guys who are really good on stage and expect them to get along. You know,
Right.
On and off the stage, we get along personality-wise. You know, that's very important to me, that you can just hang out.
Yeah, the
laugh,
hang is the huge thing, right?
humor, everything like that. So there's no tension. So yeah, I would, you know, with these guys, definitely.
What do you think, Mike? You ready to be Gene Simmons 2.0 if they asked you?
Oh my God, I would run for it. I would
Yeah.
love it.
You know, Gene would be there every single day to make sure you did it right.
I would be. Yeah,
You know that, right?
I've met him
He'd be
before.
calling you every day, telling you.
I've met him before. He's gave me the speech, and so yeah, I would love it. It would be great. I mean,
You know, it would be, you know, you are the brand, you are the man. That's the kind of
Yeah.
speech you would get every day.
yeah, I would totally do it. Mark, Rich, Quentin, we would have a blast. It would be awesome, and I would, you know, who knows if the public would accept it or not, but I would totally do it. They can throw tomatoes all they want. I would love to stand on that. So it would be a blast.
Excellent, excellent. Well, if you folks out there get a chance, definitely check out Mr. Speed. Come to your town. Check out their websites for dates. Thank you guys so much for being here. We really appreciate it. And as always, if you folks out there want to know more about us, you have comments or questions, please feel free to email us at talkingaboutrock@gmail.com. Like us and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And this interview will be dropping shortly on YouTube, and you can check out the audio for it on all the streaming services. Guys, again, thanks for being with us tonight. It's been great.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Robert.
Yep, have a good night.